Hello, and welcome back to Transylvaniacs, the podcast adventure of two longtime friends trying their absolute best with limited success to watch as many adaptations of Dracula as humanly possible.
Each episode, we try and watch every Dracula, from Dracula A to Dracula Z.
Will.
Yeah. Oh, did we ever get one? Oh my god.
Yeah, we got one this time, folks. So we'll just get right into what we're doing here. This is our first episode where we are looking at a television series. It is 10 episodes. So we are going to do episodes 1 through 5 this time, and then next step will be 6 through 10. But my God, have we been delivered a smorgasbord, I would say. Before we just start going off to the races, how the hell are you?
I'm all right. I feel like every episode that I'm not sick, I've just moved, and this is one of the just moved episodes.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I don't know how we managed to time that with you either being ill or moving, but it has been genuinely just 3 years of both of those things for you.
Yep.
Oh,
I get the moving disease. Yeah, it just settles in your bones.
Yeah,
I'm all right. Aside from like existing in a sea of cardboard boxes right now, I'm doing pretty great.
Nice. Love to hear that.
How about you, friend?
I'm doing good. I am not sick or moving, which I'm thankful for both of those.
Bless.
Yeah, nothing super crazy going on over here. I'm pleased that it is no longer the month of July. I do not do well in the month of July. I'm not a heat and humidity gal. And would it shock you to know that Pittsburgh, despite having a wintry disposition, is also really fucking hot and humid in the summer. It sucks out here. I don't know if it's worse than Philly, though, because you've got that, like, fake Jersey situation.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I feel like Pittsburgh tends to be cooler, just on the whole, but God, yeah. It was a rough July. I did not think I'd make it.
Yeah, neither of us are really predisposed to the heat, I will say.
No.
We run hot. But oh man, okay. So here's how I think we should handle this this two-parter here, because there's a lot there's a lot to talk about. And I think the best way for us to do this is to talk a little bit about the premise of the whole show and kind of go through some of the larger plot points for this first run of episodes, and discuss some of the major differences, as well as some of the issues with production, because that certainly casts a shadow over this entire thing. And then next time we can go into some of the cast members a little bit more once we have had a chance to see them, their performances over the full 10 episodes, talk a little bit about, some of the changes, what we liked, what we didn't like. But we will certainly be touching on some of the spoiler issues that we had with this particular show. I don't even think I mentioned what show it is. This is the 2013 Dracula that originally aired on NBC. It's a British-American tag team situation starring Johnathan Rhys Meyers as Dracula. It was on for one season, and we will certainly let you know why. Oh man. Will, do you want to let us know who worked on this, who's in this, and Absolutely. Then we'll talk a little bit about the main conceit. Yeah, go crazy.
Okay. This show was created by Cole Haddon, and we will get into Cole's experience with this show a little later. But it's Cole and a litany of producers working on this, with a cast that includes Johnathan Rhys Meyers as Dracula, as you previously mentioned, Jessica DeGao as Mina. As Harker, we've got Oliver Jackson Cohen. We have Lucy, played by Katie McGrath. We've got Van Helsing, played by Thomas Kretschmann. Renfield is played by Nonzo Anozzi. And an additional character added in for this show to add a little sensual spice, I guess, is Lady Jane Weatherby, played by Victoria Smurfit.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, so this is where kind of in the course of our podcast we're starting to get less into direct adaptations of the Dracula story and more into public domain fan fiction with the characters from Dracula. And
Guess which
the
this
main
is?
yeah, this is certainly fan fiction in more ways than one. So the main conceit of this version of Dracula is that we've got some of our overlapping kind of Romani, Dracula, Ancient One stuff, but we've also got the main story with the Harkers and Van Helsing in particular taking place in early 20th century London, where Dracula has come to London posing as Alexander Grayson, who is an American industrialist. Who is hoping to bring his modern electricity, geomagnetism science to Victorian society. Obviously, this is not his main motive. His main motive is to seek revenge on the Order of the Dragon, which is an organization in this version based on a real organization, but that is a kind of pseudo-church, pseudo-vampire hunting organization that has killed his wife Ilona, who shockingly looks exactly like Mina Murray, which is a trope we've seen a couple times, becoming popularized in the 70s, but has become kind of synonymous with the Dracula lore despite not being in the novel. So there's a few things that are different in this. I have to, off the bat, say that Alexander Grayson sounds like a Gen Z OnlyFans name to me. Like, my God, pick something more fanficky, fuck's sake. But yeah, woof. Okay, so we're still in London. It's, you know, kind of turn of the century type stuff. That is in line, but a lot of these characters are not in the novel, and a lot of the characters in the novel are not here. So importantly, we've got no Seward, no Arthur, and no Quincy. I feel like that was a missed opportunity, specifically with Quincy. Like, if you're playing Dracula's American, what the fuck?
I think so, and what's frustrating, particularly, is that there are roles where these guys could be and they just aren't. Like, we have the head of an asylum. We have so many lords, and they, you know, maybe there's a tease of him at the end, and then there's a scene that is literally in the Old West, and you're telling me you're not going to put any of these dudes into play.
Right. So it's an odd premise, and you know, we'll rip into some of the acting in episode 2 because I want to give everybody a fair chance. But something that makes this particularly hard to watch is that Rhys Meyers has a dog shit American accent. And it is confusing because we don't really understand the ethnicity that Dracula / Vlad Tepes himself is supposed to be. Like, when he's speaking in his role as Alexander Grayson, he's got a very stilted American accent that just is goofy to watch. It's weird, right?
Yeah, it's like the one of the default ones. It's like almost exactly the same accent that Benedict Cumberbatch is doing as Doctor Strange in the Marvel movies, where it's just sort of like unnaturally nasally.
Yeah. And look, I know dialect work is hard, but like it shows one of the major flaws of this show is that a lot of the choices they make don't make sense and were not appropriate for the people involved. Right. And then we've got him when he's like in, you know, not in the front as Grayson, when he's just being Dracula, he speaks in a British accent, but all of the flashbacks show him in Eastern Europe. His name's Vlad Tepes. Like, what's going on here? So what becomes difficult about this particular show is immediately you know that we're going really off the rails in terms of canon, and that's fine. I do not have a problem with taking this source material and going fucking crazy with it. I just want it to make sense. You know what I mean? And a lot of this doesn't make sense. And I think that's something that you and I both kind of caught onto immediately is that this is a 10 episode run. That's not a lot. You can get through the whole story of Dracula in that time, even with all of these additional characters. And yet, do you think anything happened?
No, nothing of import happened at all in these first 5 episodes. None of the story beats that make Dracula interesting are here. The playing field shifts, but stays relatively the same halfway through this season.
But that is annoying.
But hey, guess what? If you want to hear vampires talk to British lords about trade wars and alternative energy sources, great news. There's so much of that. There's just chock-a-block.
It's so bizarre. It's like I think the show is trying to be 4 different types of show at the same time, because you've got your like high gothic, high production, kind of coming off the heels of Penny Dreadful. You've got your kind of Victorian, Regency, excess Austinian social commentary. You've got your hyper-capitalist, dirty tricks and trade wars, as you said. And then you've kind of got a monster of the week. It's baffling to me that all of these want to happen at the same time, and yet halfway through the show, literally fucking nothing has happened. Like, I'm going to give you guys the barest plot summary. Dracula is pulled out of his iron tomb by somebody who we find out is Van Helsing, because there's a lot of shuffling of the character roles here. 10 years later or something like that, he goes to London to take revenge on the Order of the Dragon for killing his wife. So crazily, Van Helsing also wants revenge on the Order of the Dragon for killing his wife. It's very boring. He meets Harker, Mina, and Lucy. Harker and Mina break up and get back together at least once, perhaps twice. Renfield is around. Van Helsing is around. They've introduced a lot of these new characters who do, as you said, a lot of bickering about trade wars. We have an engagement party. That's literally fucking it in 5 episodes of this entire thing. Like, in the novel, Lucy is dead by page, 45. Ugh. It's so fucking confusing to me. And I'm kind of trying to figure out what went wrong here, and I feel like you might have some good insight into what went wrong based on the production of this. Do you think it's time? I think it's time to just kind of get right into that, because it's gonna illuminate a lot of things for a lot of people.
Oh yeah. So Cole Haddon, who is nominally the creator of the show and the writer of it, in 2023 published on Medium a piece called "The Horror of Dracula: The Unbelievable True Story of the 2013 TV Series," where he outlines the mortifying experience that he went through trying to write and produce this show. Essentially, it's really worth reading the whole thing. I won't dive into all of it, but we'll put a link to it in the notes of the show. Essentially, the story of this show is that Cole Haddon was a writer who had gotten some acclaim for a recent script he'd written called Hyde. That was a sort of a reimagining of the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde story, and it ended up on the Blacklist, which is the list of the top unproduced scripts from that year. And so he started getting some buzz from different studios, and some producers in NBC approached him about doing a project, and they wanted him to do a TV version of Dracula because of his work with reimagining gothic horror. And so he writes a draft of this, it gets sold, and then over the course of basically a year or more, he gets into a pitched battle with this producer who's only called Mr. Smiley in this piece, who keeps rejecting all of his scripts, trying to rewrite them, trying to show him how to write a script. And so he has to do multiple rewrites over the course of this year. He I think initially he wanted to do something very close to the book. He wanted Dracula to be sort of in the background, a mystery that people kind of unravel as the show goes on, not really have him in the spotlight. And the producers were like, no, we need him to be our main character. He and Grayson have to be like our POV character, the guy we're following along. And
First mistake.
He writes around it, and finally, after a lot of rewritten pages and probably some bloodshed, he's able to get a script that is sold to NBC. Not only that, they pick up the whole series just based off of the script. And I think from there, he is then forbidden to go on the set. And that's the part one of the story. This went under a lot of different mutations. Initially, he was told that a vampire project would never work because people were vampired out. This was right after Twilight, which clearly whoever's agents were not reading the room. But this thing feels like 4 different shows, because I think it was at least 4 different shows before it actually saw the light of day.
God, that sucks. And specifically being forbade from the set, I feel like is such an indicator of the environment that this was made in. And like you can kind of tell it's both rudderless and like specifically directed poorly. Do you know what I mean? Like not even just visually, but every fucking thing about this show sucks in a unique way. And like the writing is not necessarily bad. The premise is, but it seems like that wasn't our Mr. Haddon's problem here, because he clearly has like a decent sensibility. And what's frustrating about things like this, it reminds me a lot of Yellow Jackets, and someday I'm gonna have to just do a one-off episode where I scream about Yellow Jackets for 3.5 hours. Is that it's not like it's a bad show that got worse. It's like it had an okay seed and it had the potential to be good, but every single aspect of the production, writing, acting, post-production, marketing, like every single thing about this had a problem. And that is annoying to me, because I feel like they could have made this weird take on Dracula, specifically in 2013, and like kind of had a little fun with it, and it would be just a novelty little run of a show. But instead, everything about it feels aggressively misdirected. Oh man. Okay, so like we said, there's some plot issues here, specifically with the pacing, because nothing happens. At the beat-to-beat character level, what do you think of the writing of like some of these specific characters?
It's so spotty episode to episode, because I think it's almost any character development that could be there is almost constantly undercut. Because it feels like, particularly I see the plot regarding Dracula and Mina as just being so interminable so far, because there's so many. I think they're trying to get to that sort of tension of like Dracula's seduction and her awakening as Ilona or something, but they clearly it feels like they want to kind of space it out and kind of build this simmering tension, but also I feel like they know they're probably not getting a second season with this, so it feels like they're also trying to like throw their hand on the table and then walking it back.
Yes.
And like you said, they have Mina and Harker break up twice in 5 episodes and get back together. Dracula has got his whole thing with Lady Jane, that is just separate from this Mina plot, and not in a way that it feels like it is obfuscating. It feels like they are just 2 different plot lines that are coexisting, that they in episode 5 start trying to tie together.
Right. And like we got to talk about Lady Jane. So the main villain of this version of Dracula is the Order of the Dragon, which again was a real thing. It was in 15th century Central/Eastern Europe, kind of a knight order, but in a church way. But you know, it was also a lot of money and crusader shit as they did at this time. That's actually kind of a cool setup for this because it kind of reflects a little bit some of like the Castlevania lore where, you know, Dracula's main enemy is the church. And I did like that they tried to say like, hey, you know, the order used to do all of this by, you know, just like burning witches at the stake or whatever. But now they do it via money because we're in a capitalist land and, you know, that's the new church. Yeah. Like shocking revelation. Very good writing, everybody. But I like that as an idea as opposed to, you know, having Dracula have an external motivator as opposed to just like, I want this woman. But as a result, like you mentioned, we get a lot of people who aren't in the novel and who are completely interchangeable. I don't fucking know who any of these guys are with the exception of fake Christopher Guest. Because that guy's not Christopher Guest, but he looks identical to him, which is very weird. But this kind of like weird character of Lady Jane is the only female vampire hunter within the order. And they have made a lot of strange decisions with her. End of sentence. Do you feel like she serves any purpose or is she entirely tertiary?
No, she's entirely tertiary.
Oh God. It's fucking annoying.
What's wild is when they introduce her in the first episode, she's so villain coded and so nefarious seeming. And then it feels like as they go on, they have to realize that she's supposed to be a hero. I mean, she's working for, it feels like they're trying to set up that, you know, she's a noble person who's doing this vampire hunting job, who is working for bad people. But the way they go about this, they make her just look like kind of a chump who does not know what's going on.
Yes, she fucking sucks at her job, dude. She sucks at hunting vampires. What the fuck?
So she's in this relationship with Dracula, right? And she just thinks he's this wealthy American industrialist. They have like at least one gratuitous sex scene in every episode so far. And it's very unclear what's happening with this because it feels like they're really trying to lean into it being like, Dracula being like, yeah, she's falling right into my hand, this plan. But then also it's just clearly, like, it's also just like steamy, gratuitous sex that he feels very into. He's like, which one is it?
Right.
Which way are we going with this, man?
Make up your fucking mind.
And they can't decide how invested she is in him. It feels like towards the end they're like, oh no, she loves him. But oh God, it's all over the place and does not really set up anything other than it's sort of like, you know how, I think the way I'll put it is like, I feel like there's sometimes they'll do like a reboot of like Superman or something, and they'll make, or like Spider-Man, and they'll make a very big point of like, this time Superman's not with Lois Lane. He's with Milquetoast Dorcas. A well-meaning nerd we invented for the show, who we know is going to be out of here by the end of season 1, but we got to set up artificial romantic stakes. It's like that.
Yep.
Where the point is that he's not immediately like just stalking Mina because he's got to have this thing that like builds tension.
And what that does is it throws a wrench in the story because the first person that Dracula kills is fucking Lucy. Like, and as a result, Lucy's spinning her wheels. I don't mind what they did with Lucy here, I'll be honest with you. But it takes away kind of a central tension there. So, like, why add this person who sucks at her job, doesn't particularly matter, and just serves to detract from the actual plot? Like, if your tension is with Drac and Mina, why spend so much time with Drac and Jane? And then having Drac specifically urge Mina and Harker to get back together more than once, like, I know what they're going for. I know they're going for the like, no, she has to want me of her own accord. She has to really want me. And like, I get that that's what they're doing, but they fucking suck at it. And every time they have a scene with this Jane character, it makes me care less about the central fucking story. And like, I'm going to spoil some of my notes here. And I know that this is the note that you picked and I'm sorry about it. But because she's a vampire hunter and they have her opposite Rhys Meyers, I think she's in her 40s when she does this. And like, they really go out of their way to style her very like early aughts. What the fuck was that movie with Kate Beckinsale? Underworld?
Underworld, yeah.
Yeah, like they really go out of the way to style her like that. So what I wrote down was, you know what this show needed was a kung fu leather MILF.
Oh yeah.
And that makes no sense in this universe that they've created. She just seems out of place in every possible way. And it's not Victoria Smurfit's fault. She's fine. It's just like, what was the point? Again, bringing this back to fan fiction. This is an OC that somebody's really horny for that has nothing going on, you know?
Oh yeah. God, it is. Yeah, she leans into so many of these like early to mid 2000s kind of characters. I don't know if you saw in my note. I don't know if you followed that link that I posted in my episode 1 notes, but there's a scene where she's training in episode 1 that is beat for beat, the way it is shot, the way it is the Elektra training scene in the 2003 Daredevil movie that is set to Wake Me Up by Evanescence.
Yeah, the whole thing feels like that. And like, I love movies like that. I love tacky shit. And this kind of brings me to like another problem with the design of this show as a whole, is it kind of can't decide if it wants to be taken seriously or not. Like, where I come from is that you either need to do like full send tacky or full send high production elegance, specifically when it comes to gothic shit like this. And this doesn't do either. And it comes across as tasteless and pedestrian. It's confusing to me. The sex sucks. Everybody looks like they hate each other. The costuming sucks. Can we talk about the costuming, Will, please?
Oh my god.
Please go. You go first. You go first.
The first episode, Nina goes to the opera, and girl, what is the dress you are wearing?
What
You're
the
going
fuck
in
is
public
that?
in that. It is so horrible, and I think it's got like this giant yellow bow. Every costume that she wears feels like it's insane. It feels like the color coding on this show is like the color grade is insane because
insane.
Because all of Mina's costuming is so bright, it looks like she is dressed as like a Disney princess in a park.
It's really bizarre. And like, friend of the show and really excellent director and editor Matt Hunziker has ruined a lot of media for me because he's such a bitch about color grading, and I will send him that clip. But he's right. And now I can't unsee it. And this, I think, is some of the most offensive shit I've ever seen. Every single shot is oversaturated with like almost a vignette filter on it that makes it just looks ugly. This is an ugly fucking show. And we see a lot of that in the costuming as well. Everything is very, very bright. And I'm not saying that goth has to be super dark and like, you know, Marvel concrete color palette. I just want it to make sense. It doesn't make sense. Like, everything has this gaudy, tacky, gauche sensibility about it that I do think is kind of the time. Like, do you remember what girls were wearing to go to the club in 2012, Will? We were there.
Oh my god.
We were there.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Like, we were doing hot pink lipstick and like big teal statement necklaces and pencil skirts at the club for some fucking reason. We were doing it. I get it's of the time, but when you not only put people in that kind of costuming and then you enhance it in post, that's like, it looks fake.
This is only for the like you and the other St. Lawrence people who listen to this. It's like if you hosted a goth night at the TikTok.
Holy shit, yeah. Yeah, it's like, it's forced steampunkification. Okay? And I hate it so fucking much. My friend Katie frequently rails against steampunk, and I think that's the funniest thing in the world because she's like such a normal woman. But steampunk really just sends her off the fucking rails. And this has so much of this, and not even in the like shitty brown palette way. It's so fakely oversaturated. Every woman is wearing bright pink lipstick for reasons I cannot ascertain. And then, like, I'm not a historical accuracy bitch, okay? Like, I don't care about the set dressing. If it looks vaguely old-timey, I'm sold. I don't need objects to be accurate. I don't need there to be a dramaturg on every fucking production. But yeah, you go first. You go first.
And I think the thing is, I mean, I'm going to do this as a counterpoint because I just watched it recently, and listen, it's not a fair comparison, but here we are, I'm thinking, I recently rewatched the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, one with Keira Knightley in it. And I mean, if you watch that movie now, it's clear that it was made in 2005. There are ways that people, are dressed, and I think the makeup, at all points, I think Keira Knightley is great, but like her makeup is giving, I know who the Strokes are. But I think it balances the historical costuming with this sort of modern sensibility. Like Wickham looks like they cloned Orlando Bloom. But I think it does it in a way that brings you into the story. It is like, doing it in a way that's sort of contemporary that people understand. Like if you're a teenager in 2005 watching it, it gives you an entry into the world of like early 19th century British society in a way that I think like, connects you to that original material, because otherwise that is a very faithful adaptation. This, it feels like it is trying to do these touches to bring modern people in. It's doing like a contemporary soundtrack. Like you have a bohemian party scene that's soundtrack to the Brian Jonestown massacre, but it kind of doesn't add up to anything.
Right.
It just, because the story it's telling is not actually that interesting. It's just sort of middling and floating around.
Yeah, it's just happening in front of you. And like, I watched this when it came out when I was a senior in college. And I remember looking at it, and specifically some of the sets in Grayson's like electronics factory or fucking whatever. I remember looking at that and being like, that looks like shit. Like when I was like 21, like I remember being like, this doesn't look good. And so, a lot of it was due to the fact that it looks like it was shot through the like Lark Instagram filter. From that, we all posted pictures of our food with in 2012. But, kind of going back to historical accuracy, I don't need costuming to be period perfect. I really don't. I need to get the idea. And this somehow takes you out of the idea. Like, everything is so distractingly bright that I'm like, what the fuck is that? That looks really weird. And specifically, again, our offender here, Lady Jane, is showing up in like strapless corsets to like formal events with her tits pushed up to her chin. And I'm like, dude, she's not a hooker. She's like, she's supposed to be like a high
This
society
is landed
woman.
Gentry in Victorian London.
Yeah, this is like 1905. Like, what am I looking at? And this is we're going to keep going on the costuming because it really frustrated me. The blondes in this look like shit. Like, and I don't know if that's a post-production issue, but like they made Katie McGrath and Lady Jane both this like completely one-dimensional root to end warm blonde that they honestly would have looked better in bad wigs. Like, genuinely. It looks fake, and it makes them both look ill because it doesn't suit them. And then you had a great note about Drax's costuming.
Oh god, yeah. he is rocking this like he's rocking this goatee, this like, you know, mustache soul patch combination, and it's that soul patch is like just sort of like clinging to his chin is this wide rectangle. It is not, it's so weird because I remember 2013 very well. This is not a cool look in 2013.
No, it's not.
It feels like the people that I knew who had this kind of look in 2013 had really strong opinions about swords too.
Yeah, this is a Gamergate look. And like, I don't get it because they're really, really, really gunning for Drac as a sex symbol here, okay? Like, if we think about the timeline of this, Rhys Meyers finished The Tudors in, like, what, 2008? So, like, he, at this point, is a bona fide sex symbol. He was in the show, he had his dick out, everybody thought he was super, super hot. It's been 5 years. It seems like he's aged a little. And it seems like this is kind of a vanity project for him because it does appear that he has a production credit. So they're really gunning for him being charismatic and sexy. And like we said, you know, quote, Mr. Smiley, forced Haddon to have him be a really major player in this. And nothing about either his performance or his styling or the way that it's shot or the way that it's written sell that at all. This is shockingly uncharismatic. He has no chemistry with Jane. He has no chemistry with Mina. It's really odd. Kind of going back to, you know, I don't want to get into performances this time just because I want to give everybody a chance. In terms of the way that they've changed some of the character backgrounds, Van Helsing in this is not a vampire hunter, but in fact Dracula's main ally. What did you think about that?
So, the way they structure it, it's a twist that at the beginning of episode 1, you see two guys reviving Dracula. One of them dies. You don't see the other guy's face. And then at the end of the episode, they go back to that scene and they do reveal that Van Helsing was the one who masterminded resurrecting Dracula. And so after that, you just get a lot of scenes of them having the same conversation about how Van Helsing brought Dracula back to life to help him get revenge on the Order of the Dragon. And then every episode, Dracula has the same conversation about how Van Helsing needs to complete his formula so that he can go outside in the daylight now, because people are starting to ask questions, and no one has ever asked that question. Not even once in this show. No one has brought it up to Dracula at any point when he starts harping about this.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, you're right.
It is like a lot of the things in this from the pilot. It is an interesting idea that immediately fizzles out as it just treads water for 4 more episodes.
Right. And like, I kind of like playing with the Van Helsing character in particular. I think that in the novel, he doesn't do a ton, to be honest. He's, you know, he talks via telegram for 100 pages and then, you know, shows up to occasionally do some bullshit. But yeah, you really hit the nail on the head. An interesting idea that proceeds to turn into absolutely nothing. And I feel kind of the same way about Lucy. So I like, obviously, when adaptations spend a little more time on the relationship between Mina and Lucy, because I think it is important to the stakes of the entire story. And I think it is a reasonable extrapolation to assume that there is a romantic interest there. The original novel is very, very gay. Like, Stoker himself was probably gay. And I don't think he necessarily wrote that into Mina and Lucy, but I think from the angle of adaptation, particularly one that takes such big swings as this, I think it makes sense, and we've seen it before. We have seen both teases at the homoeroticism between them and a little more blatant. This is, and you know, this is a spoiler, it's going to get more blatant. And, you know, she secretly harbors romantic feelings for Mina, and yet is in the position of having to, you know, kind of constantly deal with her and Harker, even when they have these ups and downs. And it kind of makes her feel a little bit more tortured as opposed to like a frivolous, you know, society girl, which is often how she's characterized, either that she, you know, has all these men falling at her feet, or that, you know, she's just silly. And I liked this take on her. The problem is, again, that in 5 episodes, nothing happens. And, you know, I have seen this whole show, and I will say that we are going to get some. But it takes so much longer than it needs to. And that kind of adds to the frustration there, because I feel like this was an interesting take on the character and one of the performances I liked more. But again, this whole show just is like wasted potential, man. It's really hard to watch. And then two others. I don't really want to get into Mina right now because I'll talk for an hour and a half. I do want to touch on Harker and Renfield in terms of character writing as opposed to actor performance.
Can I go off about this thing about Harker in particular? So, in this adaptation, right, Harker is, instead of being a lawyer, or he is or solicitor, he is a reporter for a newspaper. And they try and keep the other beats the same. He's not engaged to Mina yet, but you know they're in this long-standing relationship. They keep the broad thing of, you know, he's trying to move up in life and be able to provide for Mina. And then one of the few things that happens of character development is in like the second or third episode, Dracula comes and asks him to work for him. And, you know, he struggles with, should I work for this guy? It feels kind of shady. Why is he invested in me doing this? And to me, it's just, then why is he a reporter? He is a solicitor who is already working on behalf of Dracula in the book. He was already working for Dracula. Part of it is him being like, I want to provide my family, but I'm involved with this guy that is like weird and I feel odd about it, but helps me provide. It was right there. It was in the beginning of the original story. Why did you rewrite it? But worse.
Why did you rewrite it versus this whole show?
Just keep him as a solicitor who's already working for Dracula. It would take so much of the weird heavy lifting that you're doing and just remove it.
Yep. And like, they could still, and I feel like the reason they wrote him as a reporter is that like his use to Dracula is that he is a gossip and he knows everything about everyone. But just have him be a fucking nosy little bitch and still be a solicitor. He doesn't have to be a reporter to be fucking nebby. You know what I mean? Like, it's really odd. And again, one of those decisions that just like baseline does not make any fucking sense. It's really odd. But in terms of the characterization of Harker, personality wise, I actually think this is one of my favorites because at least he has something fucking going on. And like, he's an asshole and he's snippy and he's an ass kisser and a gossip and he sucks. But I would take a Harker who's kind of a heel over the wet noodle I have seen for 15 fucking movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. I see. Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
You see where I'm coming from. We don't have to agree on it, but like, I respect that at least they gave him something going on, even though it was misguided again and poorly written again. But
I mean, I think I have like fuck ass Harker written at least 3 different times in my
fuck
notes.
Ass Harker.
This is piece of shit.
He is a piece of shit. But like, at least it's something other than just like a man who's in the first third of the story and then is never heard from again. You know? Like, I kind of like the characterization of that, like, maybe he does suck. Maybe Mina should not be with him. But like social climbing, little brown nosing shit, at least gives me something to work with. But yeah, I think your point specifically about making make like arbitrary changes to the backstory again in a fan fiction way. They're like coffee shop AU. Fuck off. This sucks. Do something different. Oh God, sorry. It's so annoying to me. All right, then we have a difficult a difficult character to discuss. Renfield in this is Dracula's confidant and lawyer, so who kind of takes the place of Harker in some ways, and is also American and is a black gentleman, who his backstory is that he passed, the bar exam and was a lawyer, but was arrested unfairly due to his race and, left penniless and runs into Dracula on a train or some shit in the West. And, Dracula saves him from being beaten up for being black. This is going to segue nicely into the problem with Dracula, but this is an interesting choice for Renfield, and I don't exactly know how to feel about it. Do you want to take the first stab at this?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of understand what they're going for with this. They're giving him, this is a very different Renfield than we've seen in anything else. The big thing I think we should mention is that Renfield is not like in Dracula's thrall. He is not the version we have seen in so many movies. Not like, he's not Dwight Fry doing this like yes master thing. He's very much an equal and a partner. Like he's a friend who's like he's in Dracula's employ because he understands to some extent and likes him. He wants to be there. He is fully of his own. He's there of his own volition. And it feels like they're trying to give him an Alfred, right? Like a bat.
Yeah,
like
they are.
Batman.
Yeah, they are trying to give him an Alfred. Yeah, you're totally right.
And I think, that gives us an interesting version of this character that does something new and exciting. I think this actor, we'll get into it later, I think he does a good job in this. The issue is that it also raises a lot of questions and things that it just simply, Dracula 2013, the show, is not prepared to answer.
Yeah.
There is a scene, and I think it's episode 4 or 5, where
I think it's 5.
He gets kidnapped by the order, one of the guys on the Order of the Dragon, and gets interrogated by this torture lady. They're like a bunch of like side characters who are hired by the Order of the Dragon, by the way. They're like 2 like psychic twins that use drugs to peer through time. They've got Torture Lady. They kind of suck at their job because they both get killed in one episode. But Torture Lady like starts asking him about Grayson, trying to get information on how these guys can strike back at Grayson, who they view not as, they don't know he's Dracula, but they see him as a threat in an economic
business-wise.
sense.
Yeah.
And so they employ these really gruesome torture scenes to Renfield. It's genuinely very hard to watch.
It is, and I was shocked that it was on fucking NBC.
Yeah, and it feels to me like the mortification of a black body in the like 19th century, like someone whose backstory is that he exists in the shadow of slavery and the Jim Crow South, feels like maybe it was in poor taste. Like it feels like maybe we could have not done this.
Yeah, to quote your notes, not to get too Slate article about this, but yeah, it is an interesting twist on the character, but it winds up, being viewed 12 years later in a way that does not necessarily do it a lot of favors. And like this leads us to the main problem with this characterization of Dracula, is that they want him to be the good guy. And they try to show this in a lot of different ways. But this is kind of like the altruistic millionaire trope. And it winds up not really working because Grayson as himself is completely one-dimensional and agonizing to watch. But at the end of episode 5, when we finished seeing the nonsensically interspersed flashback of Renfield and Dracula's first meeting, Dracula says something along the lines of like, "I too know what it's like to be an outcast," and it's like, oh, okay, well, there's what you think you're doing. You're not. First of all, you do not possess the finesse to do that correctly. Secondly, it's just it's such a like Zack Snyder trope. Do you know what I mean? Of like, he'll do the bad thing, but at his heart, he's really a good guy. It's early 10s anti-hero, anti-villain type stuff, and it's fucking boring. It's boring. It's really boring to watch. Especially when, it doesn't make sense for the source material. The hero of Dracula is Mina, and always should be Mina. And I do say that with some prejudice, as I am a Mina Murray apologist. It really is so obvious here with what it's trying to do. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating to watch.
He feels like he's supposed to be this this character that was everywhere in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. It feels like he's somewhere in between like Tony Stark and like the specifically like Christopher Nolan version of Bruce Wayne.
Oh yeah, 100%. It is direct from that. Like, it is copy paste.
When did Arrow come out? The like Green Arrow CW show?
I think probably like 2011 or so. Let's find out.
Because this feels 2012. Yeah,
exactly.
This feels a lot like Arrow or something.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. And like, you talking about, and like, again, I'm not somebody who's going to go really hard in on something that's 12 years old as being cringe or whatever, because like, everything is of its time. You can view it both in the lens of being contemporary and watching it in post. But the early 2010s, specifically in TV, had some really specific tropes that are enduring, and visual styles. Like, this looks like an episode of Sherlock with half the money. All of it does. And like 2012 BBC was really obsessed with this kind of affably evil archetype for villains, such as Evil Torture Lady. That was a character in Sherlock. That was a character in fucking Peter Capaldi, Doctor Who. Like, all of it seems like it is an amalgamation of the worst parts of watching television in 2010 to 2014. And that is not a great sale. Not a great sale. I'm trying to think of just like some other things that we can touch on. Like, you mentioning the Seer twins, mentioning, what's her face, Torture Lady, does kind of bring me back to like, I think this show thought it was doing Monster of the Week, while also doing Penny Dreadful at the same time. And those are inherently not compatible styles of television. You cannot be everything to everybody. And it makes more sense knowing how crazy the production of this was, to see why it failed so spectacularly. Are there any other like little things that you kind of want to touch on before we get into kind of our ending stuff here? Because we're going to have another episode on this. We probably could have done them both in one, but Will and I have lives and stuff and can't just watch 10 episodes of TV in the space of a few days.
particularly not this show. Oh my God.
No, like, why would we want to? Like, this is psychic punishment to consume.
I had to buy this. I bought this on Amazon, and like yesterday, like I was trying to watch it, and like somehow a pin lock got activated, or it tried to make me enter in a pin number to watch the show. I'm like, please don't make me do extra steps to watch this. What the fuck, man? But the thing is, when you remove Dracula, who's such a great villain, and so he feels in the book and in the best adaptations like truly a force to be reckoned with, a force of nature that these men are going to try their best to defeat, and they're going to use all their wits, and they're going to rely on, Mina kind of running this show to defeat this ancient evil. There's really something in that. It's powerful. It feels like it's a gripping thing in the book. The thing of making Dracula instead of that big shadowy villain is that the villain are these interchangeable white guy English lords. They are so boring and milquetoast. The Christopher Guest guy, who is, I think, like, who's called Mr. Browning in this, I get it, Todd Browning. We love to do an Easter egg in the 2010s. But they're so boring, and not all of their evil is so mundane. They're so weak. Posing Dracula against him as the hero is just, you don't doubt that he's going to rip through them at the end, because all of these guys are so boring. They're mundane. I never at any point feel like these are the bastards that Dracula is making them out to be, because I don't see them as being capable of doing truly anything of note.
Right. And the one time we do see them do some evil shit is where they kill a member of their group for doing a business deal with him. And this member happened to be a gay man who was having an affair with the son of another member. And none of this matters. None of this matters. I don't know who these fucking people are. We have no Seward, no Quincy, no Arthur, but we do have, twinks doing fencing for some reason. What the hell is going on? And you mentioned in your notes that you really think that they should have made Mina's dad, who runs the asylum in this and has 5 lines, be Dr. Seward, which yeah, fucking obviously. It's arbitrary changes to the adaptation that is really obnoxious, because I do not care if you change the source material. That's the point of an adaptation. I just want you to have a reason for it. And this feels completely like it was for shits and giggles in a fan fiction way. And I love fan fiction. I've read some great fan fiction in my time. But those are usually by authors who have really direct motivations from the source that they're working with, as opposed to authors who are just what if XYZ? Wouldn't that be cool? What if Dracula was Thomas Edison? What the fuck are you talking about?
Dracula's back from the dead, and he knows a lot about magnets.
Yep, that's this show. And I do have bad news for you, Will. It is gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse.
Oh God,
a little bit more is gonna happen. We are gonna get, we're gonna make our way through the first, maybe third of the novel. I'll give you that. Yeah. But it will end on a cliffhanger, because for some reason I think they were under the impression that there would be more of this show. And it's not going to make any sense. But I truly am excited to get into the next batch of episodes, because then we'll have kind of the whole picture of the deliciously weird failure that this is. And I want to spend some time really ripping on Rhys Meyers. I'm itching to do it now, but I want to give him 5 more episodes to impress me, even though I know he fucking won't. My God. Okay. So we can skip some of our ranking stuff, because we'll wait till the end of episode 2 there, but I would really love to hear your favorite note.
Oh, listen, this is some of your finest work, I have to say.
Kind. You're too kind.
Banger after banger of these. I think my favorite one is, we making sunlight potion or some shit.
Yeah, because again, why wouldn't we? Yeah, sure. Why fucking not? Guess we'll do that. I have 2 for you. One of which is in a scene where, Dracula is seducing Lady Jane for reasons that are beyond comprehension. He's doing a magic trick for her. And your note is, dog, he put that coin where?
In the scene, the coin disappears, and she asks where it is, and then he leans into her ear and whispers where, and then they start fucking. It's oh, excuse me? Why was... like, and you know what makes sense, because it makes sense he did a magic trick, because everything in the costuming and his hair and his beard scream like close-up magician.
Oh man, I need to send you you know Tom Cardy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's got a great song called 3 Hours with the Close-Up Magician. Is that this is a gift that he's bought for his girlfriend, because that's what every woman wants. And then my second one of yours, just because I couldn't pick, is, oh, she's time warp wasted. Because, and again, this is a scene that I liked the idea of. It's when Mina and Harker have broken up for the first time. Lucy takes her out on the town. They do a bunch of absinthe, and Brian Jonestown Massacre plays, and then they put like the dumbest motion blur effect of all time on top of it, and she gets to see some past Mina or fucking whatever. Like, who cares? Who cares? That's what I have to say about this show. Who gives a literal fuck? So incredibly frustrating. God. Oh man. Okay, so next episode we're gonna look at the second half of this, and we'll try our best to get these out within a short amount of time, so you're not waiting on this. But like I said, this type of psychic torment does require some spacing, else we'd both be even more unwell than we normally are when trying to record this.
We already have enough going on, people. Come on.
Please, for the love of God, give us a break. But yeah, we will catch you guys next time. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye.